Gloucestershire Constabulary was founded on the 18th of November 1839 with the appointment of the first Chief Constable. Before 1839, small police forces had been established within Gloucester City and certain towns and boroughs within the county. Sometimes officers were either ex-members of London's Metropolitan Force and sometimes seconded from that force. In 1839, the Gloucestershire County Constabulary was established with a Chief Constable and a maximum number of 250 officers, excluding Gloucester City and Tewkesbury. It was thought that Gloucestershire was the second oldest force and that Wiltshire was the oldest. Recent research by Dr. Tim Brain has proved that, in fact, Gloucestershire met all the criteria to establish a county force before Wiltshire. You can read his research in his article Keeping the Peace. In June 1840, there were a total of 245 officers, superintendents and constables stationed at 32 police stations. By 1902, this had increased to 372 officers stationed at 113 police stations. In 1918, the first women police constables were appointed, 2 to be employed in Cheltenham and paid for by the Borough Council. Prior to this date, it appeared that female officers were seconded perhaps from the Women's Police Service as and when required. Later in the year, a further 8 women were recruited. At this time, should they decide to marry, then they were required to resign. In June 1947, the force establishment was increased from 519 officers to 653. That's about 25% increase. 1960 saw this increase to 772, and by 1970 it stood at 1,185. At this time, the force boundaries stretched south as far as and including parts of Bristol City. From February 1976, women became equal with male officers, working the same duties, shifts, and on equal pay. Over a period of time, the smaller police forces within the county were merged into the Gloucestershire Constabulary, which continued to grow in numbers until 1974, when the lower part of the county from Thornbury south was merged with the newly created Avon and Somerset Constabulary, and 340 officers were transferred. The size of the force was then reduced to 1,007.